So natural law holds that as humans, we all, number one, possess reason. So that means that we have the ability to discern good from evil, right from wrong. We all have free will, and we like to believe that we all have inherent morality. So natural law will be a set of universal, objective, non-man-made conditions, immutable, which govern the consequences of behavior.
So it's a good place to start is truth versus perception. And some of these things may, I know, they can be triggering sometimes, especially if, like myself, you've been on a spiritual path, for many years, which is beautiful. And we're going to talk a little bit more about some of the things that have been co-opted from that or distorted, in that path. But there's this idea that perception creates, or perception is truth somehow, or perception, your truth, my truth, all of that, which in certain circumstances that can be true, right? You perceive something a different way than I do. So we like to say perception creates your experience. But in the context of natural law and what we're talking about today, truth is. So it's that which does not waver. It is not based on perception. So it's not subjective. It is objective. Perception is based on what one, while perception is based on what one wants to see or doesn't want to see. So, in the world now, we can see a lot of this happening around us where there is the truth of something. And we can talk more about this, but truth can be also defined as something that's happened in the past or that's happening in the present, not the future. Truth is not available in the future because it hasn't happened yet. So we'll talk more about this, but that's just the difference between truth versus perception. And this is something that, in the New Age movement has been distorted. And there are a lot of good things about, about that movement, but a lot of it has been distorted to say that, well, whatever you want to be true, you just perceive it that way. And then it is. So it gets a little sticky, right? And we can talk about, I know we have some examples of this too, that Liz and I discussed, and it can be as simple as it's raining outside, right? And the truth is there's water falling from the sky, and that if you go out there without an umbrella or some covering, you will get wet. That's the truth. That's a fact. The perception could be, oh, it's such a beautiful, I want to go outside and get, it's not good or bad. It's just, you can perceive it differently. You can say whatever you want about it. But the truth is, the fact is, it is raining and you will get wet if you go outside without covering. Right? Just the same as, and we can talk about relevant topics too, like what we're seeing today, like certain things that are, that we see that are harmful for people. Right. And one can perceive that however they would like to, and they can not see it if they don't want to see it, or they can choose to see it if they want to see it. And that's perception versus the fact that things are harming people.
Yeah. Just to wrap that up, and truth is simply that which is. Yeah. It's objective, it's not mystical. And perception is the lens which we decide to see reality through. The purpose of this is, with this knowledge, with this understanding, that inspiration comes, right? Inspired action will come, because being willfully ignorant will impair the manifestation of the right action. And we can even go a little bit, before I talk about this PS right here, into the different kinds of ignorance, right? One can be ignorant because there's no information available. And one can be willfully ignorant, which seems like a lot of the times that we're living through right now, because information is out there and it does not take a lot of effort to look and to find. And so it's an availability of someone's internal resourcing to be able to say, wait a minute, or tell me more about this, and to get curious and all of that. So just clarifying that there is a difference
and this ability to justify any act, literally almost any action in the spiritual realm or with spiritual fantasy, like, oh, that person chose to come and interact with me, and like, oh, I did something, I harmed this person, right? I did something, whatever it was, I hurt them, I assaulted them, I killed them, whatever it was, but we had to come back and live out our past lives, or I'm just giving an example, something. I mean, you can literally justify any action through that lens. And I spent time here, in my my quest for ultimate truth, self-realization, non-dualism. And I'm not saying any of these things are bad. It's beautiful to realize yourself and who and what you are, of course. But in the extreme, it does create quite naturally this disembodiment and dissociation. And then, oh, I'm not the body, which ultimately, of course, we're not the body, right? We exist long after the body, and we were here before we were in this body, if you believe that. However, it's very important that we're here in these bodies for a reason. So just really honoring that and loving that versus, it's a way to numb out too, and not actually have to deal with life and the way you feel about certain things and things that may have happened to you, that, traumas that you may need to actually sit with and work through, and yeah, the whole very surface level law of attraction, where you just get to say, oh, I'm doing something wrong because I haven't manifested what I've been thinking about, for whatever, sit in meditation for however long. So this is really, really important part of understanding natural law, because again, it can get different shades of gray here, if you have a background or experience in like self-realization.
Very important piece right here. We all have the capacity to discover, understand, and harmonize with natural law, what we were talking about. In order to align with it, we need to know its principles. So natural law is defined as the principles of coordination and guidance that we, man and womankind, are governed by. It is inherent, based in nature and truth, and it's immutable and binding, like we said in the beginning. So the understanding of natural law, it's centered upon bringing our own consciousness into alignment with that objective morality that we talked in the beginning, that we believe we all have, that Tara and I believe that we all have that compass inside of us. So it starts to get clearer for us which behaviors don't cause harm and which behaviors do cause harm, which is the basis of all of this conversation here.
Go back to the new age law of attraction stuff, where it's like, oh gosh, if you focus on something negative, it's going to happen. And then we go, oh my God, I don't want to focus on anything negative. Oh my God, it's going to happen, and by ignoring the negative, you're also fueling ignorance, and that grows. It sounds very simple, doesn't it? That does this initiate harm? Yes or no? In one of the videos I watched around natural law, they were asking like people on the street, basically, is morality objective or subjective? And I would have to say 95% of people said that it was subjective. And morality is basically what I think is good, or what you think is good, or what. So that's just a little snapshot of where we're at, guys.
How can you change something that you don't know exists? Right? How can we? So that, I think, that rounds it up for the purpose of this presentation. And then the bigger picture of like understanding something and taking it in, it's the first step. And then from that place, it's where change gets created, right? Because if you don't know, there's no change. There's no evolving from that on.